Welcome everyone to Understanding Modes and Scales. I'm going to go over to our screen share here. Share. And here we are. So this is session 1, and this is what we'll be talking about tonight. A chromatic scale review, an overview of the tetrachords, a review of the derivation of the major scale and chords along a string, the chords of the major scale, and examples of major scale tunes, and the modes of the major scale. So we start with a chromatic scale review along the G string. So we'll play this chromatic scale using sharps ascending and flats descending. So let's play and say the chromatic scale on the G string. You may use either the index finger or a 4-finger pattern. Here we go. 1, 2, ready, play. G, G sharp, A sharp, B, C, C sharp, D, D sharp, E, F, F sharp, G. Descending using flats. G, G flat, F, E, E flat, D, D flat, C, B, B flat, A flat, G. Good. Now, the tetrachord. This is a review for those of you who had the course last time. A tetrachord is a 4-note pattern covering 4 letters of a diatonic scale. Because we are studying the stringed instruments with a G string, we'll generate the tetrachord from the note G, or open string. Remember, musical structures are generated and measured by the distances between 2 notes. This is a really important concept. Because the tetrachord is comprised of 4 notes, there will be some combination of half or whole steps that make up the structure. There are 3 intervals involved in a tetrachord. Our first example of a tetrachord will be used to help generate the major scale. The formula is whole step, half step. And here we have it here. Here's the bottom tetrachord. So we get a whole step from G to A whole step from A to B, and a half step to C. So there are 3 intervals, 4 notes. So let's play the tetrachord from G to A. So we get G, A, B, C. Right? G, A, B, C. So, and here it is without the chromatics in between. All right? G, A, B, C. So when it's forward, it's whole step, half step. When we play it backwards, the pattern is half, whole. So let's play it forward and back. Here we go. Ready, go. G, A, B, C. Now backwards. C, half step down to B, whole step to G. Let's do that again. Ready, go. G, A, B, C. Backwards. C, B, A, G. Good. So now we're going to generate a major scale. The scale will be G major, as we will be starting the scale on the note G. This note is called the keynote or tonic of the scale. So there are 2 rules that govern the generation of major or minor scales. The tetrachord rule. Diatonic scales are made up of 2 tetrachords in succession. And the diatonic rule, the scale must use each letter name of the musical alphabet once. So here's the major scale tetrachord formula. So we have whole, half, a whole in the middle, whole, half on the top. All right, so let's place that over the chromatic scale. So here we get whole, half. So it's a whole step in the middle, and then whole, whole, half on top. So let's just go ahead and play through this. Here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4. So we get G, A, B, C. Now we have the whole step in the middle. That's D. Now we do the second tetrachord, E, F sharp, G, right? So whole, whole, half, a hole in the middle, whole, whole, half. This is the definition of a major scale. So let's do that again. Ready, go. G, A, B, C, whole step in the middle. D, E, whole step to F sharp, G. Good. Let's remove the chromatics so we don't have to be looking at those. And then we'll just play this up and then we'll play it back. Okay. Here we go. Ready, go. G, whole step, A, whole step, B, C, whole step, D, whole step, E, F sharp, G. Now we're going to play backwards and you're going to get half, whole, whole, hole in the middle, half, whole, whole. Ready? Go. G, F sharp, E, D, C, B, A, G. Okay, everybody with me? Any questions? Okay, so that's our review. We're not going to worry about the fingerings. I just copied that over from the last bit. So that was a G major scale. And we want to do this in a flat key because I want you to have experience with keys other than G, D, A, C, because you may be playing a fiddle tune in that key someday, right? So, all right. Now we're going to generate the A flat major scale using the same idea. All right. So here we are on the flat side. So we're going to start on A flat, which is your first fret. We're going to go up 2. We're going to go up a whole step, half step, whole step, whole step, whole step, half step. All right. And because we're calling this A flat, let's just scoot down here. These will all generate out as flats. All right. So let's start on A flat. Ready? A flat. Up a whole step is B flat. Up a whole step is C. Up a half step is D flat. That's our first tetrachord. Then we have a whole step, which takes us to E flat. Whole step up to F. Whole step up to G. Half step to A flat. Did everybody get that? Yeah, let's do that one more time. You guys are all good. Here we go. A flat, B flat, C, half step to D flat, E flat, F, G, A flat. Very nice. So now we go backwards. Half whole, whole, hole in the middle, half whole, whole. Here we on A flat, go. A flat, G, F, E flat, D flat, C, B flat, A flat. There we go. All right, any questions about that? Again, you can generate any key starting on any note using this method. Okay, so I just want to go over and review the chords in a key, because we did go over how to generate this in the Music Theory 1 course, and I'm not going to go over how to generate it again, but we're just going to assume that you understand how to make a triad, a 3-note chord, or this 7th chord here. So we get, when we review our chords in a key, so the chord in major, the first degree is always major. So in G, that would be G major. The second is always minor, so we get A minor. The third is always minor, so we get B minor. The fourth is always major, so we get C major. The fifth is always major, or you could play a seventh chord if you want a little more tension in your life. Just what we need is more tension in our lives, right? And then 6 is minor, so we have E minor. And then 7 is F sharp diminished. I don't know, do you all know a diminished shape on your instrument? No, okay. Let me, I'm gonna do it this way. Chuck, you remember your diminished chord?
Diminished 7, yes.
Diminished 7th, yeah. Okay. Yeah. So what happens is, instead of playing a diminished triad, we're going to play a fully diminished 7th chord. And because in most folk and pop music, we turn it into a fully diminished 7th chord. And it's beyond the scope of this course to say why, but when you see it in music, it's usually F sharp diminished 7th. So you all have a pencil there? What I'm going to do is write this out for guitar. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All right, I'm going to stop screen sharing for a moment. Stop screen sharing. I'm gonna hold this up to the camera. And that's your guitar shape for F sharp diminished 7th. Did I put the 7th on there? I didn't. Hold it. Or F sharp circle 7. Here we are. Is that in focus? Al, do you remember a fully diminished 7th chord on the mandolin? You have to unmute.
It's a 1, 3 flat, 5 flat, isn't it? And then a 7.
Yeah, and it's,
But I haven't. I was trying to figure it out.
I will give you a shape in a minute.
Okay.
You guitar players, you have that shape? Do you have the shape written down? Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1. 1, 2, 3, 1. Hold it. Let me get my mandolin. I'm trying to do it on my arm. I had it right. Here, Al. Okay. So the deal is any one of these notes is the root. It's a perfectly symmetrical chord. So no matter what string or what note you place it on F sharp, then that will be the root. So for right now, it's easy enough just to put it on the first string, second fret, since for mandolin and guitar anyways. All right. All right, so I'm going to go back over to screen share unless anybody has any questions. Barry, I seem to have lost Barry. All right, well, we'll just go on here. Okay, so let's just play through these chords in a key. And I'm not going to do it up the string. We did that last time. I just want to play the chords in the key because that's in the situations we're going to be using. You're just going to be playing chords as if it's a folk instrument. So we're in G major. 1 is G. So everybody play a G chord. 2 is A minor. 3 is B minor. 4 is C major. 5 is D major, or you can play D7 if you wish. Or 6 is E minor. 7 is F sharp diminished. And that brings us back to G. All right. This formula holds true for every major key. And it's going to be an important part of what we look at when we start looking at pieces. Does everybody understand that? What I've done? Okay, on we go. So when we use these keys, these chords, we don't use them in the order that they're generated. We use them in the order of tension. And that's what I was talking about in terms of the progressions that we looked at in the last class. The basic idea of classic Western art is the idea of tension and release. In common practice, the idea of tension and release leads an artist to designate an area of a piece at rest, working to some kind of climax, and then releasing tension back to the place of rest. Just in any of the common practice art forms, literature, music, painting, this is what's happening in the piece of art, some sort of tension and release. Tension may occur suddenly or built up too slowly. Conversely, the tension may be released quickly, or quick release denied and the tension dissipating slowly. So we look at our chords again, and I just want to redefine are there any questions about that so far? All right, so here is especially 1, 4, and 5. I'm not going to name the other ones just yet, but the place of rest is called tonic. That would be your G chord. The 4 chord is named subdominant. It's a place of intermediate tension. And then the 5 chord is dominant. It's the place of most tension in a key. Everything in that wants to go back to 1. Okay. The other thing that we are going to look at, and perhaps, well, I didn't look at it in terms of chords, so I won't even bore you with that right now. The 1 chord is the place of rest in a key. As the tonic, it's based on the key note. So G is the 1 chord because it's based on the G, the key note of the G major chord. Somehow, psychoacoustically, whatever the first chord you hit your mind interprets that as home bass without any other context. So you just hit G and your mind thinks, G is home bass. We're going to play something in G, unless your mind is disabused of that by whatever the chords are following. It's just a psychoacoustic property that we use, composers use, musicians use, to help define rest and tension. So the 5 chord holds the place of most tension in a key. 5/7 knocks the tension up a notch with the introduction of the 7th chord. And the reason that the 5/7 is tense is that every note in the chord has pulled back towards the note of the 1 chord. All right, so everybody go ahead and play G. That's home bass because that was the first thing you played. Now play D or D7. I'll play D7. And then back to G. So you could hear how D7 was very tense and it wanted to go back to G. You couldn't stop there. It's very uncomfortable until we go, I feel much better now, right? Okay. Any questions about that? This 1-5-1 is going to be a defining factor in when we look at chords and scales to trying to figure out what key we're in. Okay, you're always going to look for a 1-5-1 situation. If it doesn't, a 1-5-1 situation doesn't exist, then you have to start thinking, oh, maybe I'm in a mode. Right? It's going to be one of the big clues when we look at chords. The 4 chord is a place of intermediate tension. The resolution back to 1 is a little softer, less frantic. So here's G, that's your 1. Now go ahead and play a C. And back to G. Right? Instead of this is D7. Yum, bom. That's 5-1. Go to C. 4-1. Okay, hear the difference? If you can't, you want to sit and play these little chord progressions and until you can hear the difference between most tension, D7, G, or to 4, C. Okay. Any questions so far? Can you all hear that tension? Yeah. Okay. So you all experience that. Good. Okay. So again, this is review. 1, 4, 5 are the bulk of the foundation of the songs in our Western tradition. And you know, my insight is the interplay between the various tensions gives songsmiths so much energy, musical energy to work with. Our culture never seems to tire of this way of music making. Indeed, each new generation seems to find subtle ways to use these same materials to craft their own take on writing tunes. Now, let's get into my process for identifying what key or what mode you're in using the materials that we've processed so far. So if we go through this same process that I'm about to outline with every single one of the modes that we're going to be talking about, then it will give you A, a great insight as to how modes are put together, and B, a quick way of identifying what mode you're in once you've unlocked the secret code, the code of tetrachords for each one of these modes. All right. So major, again, majors, this is a lot of review for many of you because we've been working in major for so long, but it's the process and not the idea of major that we're interested in. All right, so when you're looking at a piece using melody alone, you want to look at the final note of the piece. Often the final note of the piece is the tonal center. Sometimes the first note of the piece starts on 5 or some other note, but at the ending, the composer almost always comes back and ends it on the tonic. Why? Because it's satisfying and because our ears like to hear the idea that we've gone through a whole bunch of work to places of different tensions and come back to home base. That's one. Often it's approached melodically by 2-1. So if you have a tune going, so that's 5, 5, 4, 3, 4, 3, 2, 1. And you hear that 2, 1, da, 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 2, 1. Sometimes it's approached by 7, 1. I'll do the same thing. I'll go da, 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 7, 1. Okay. 7, 1. And sometimes it's approached by 5 to 1, either from the top or from the bottom. So listen to this one. And I'm just making these melodies up. So 1, 2, and 3, 4, 5, 1. Hear that? 1, 2, and 3, 4, 5, 1. Or it's approached from 5 from the bottom, the D below. So we get 1, 2, and 3, and 5, 1, 1, 2, and 1. Sorry, 1, 2, and 1, 2, 3, 2, 1, 5, 1. I'm counting scale steps, not rhythm. Everybody understand what I'm doing there in terms of how the melody is approaching 1? And these are little formulas that are going to give you clues. Any questions on that? The second thing you want to do is you want to, so if this happens, then many times it is in major, but we want to check it, analyzing it using the tetrachord. So using the first tetrachord, you want to measure from 1 to 3 according to the key signature. Well, our key signature has 1 sharp and it's on F sharp. So if we measure the scale using the tetrachord, from 1 to 3, it will be like this. So you get 1, you get a whole step to 2, and you get a whole step to 3. And I just laid out the rest of the tetrachord here just so that you were understanding that that's a tetrachord, but we're really measuring from 1 to 3. Why? Because these 2 whole steps tell you that the distance from 1 to 3 is a major third. Okay, we have a whole step and a whole step. And it sounds to our ears like this: do, re, mi. If that were a half step, it would be a minor third, and that would give our ears information that it would be a minor scale or minor type scale that we'd be listening to. So that's the first thing you want to do. Once you figure out where 1 is, you want to look at the tetrachord, the first tetrachord. So if it's 2 whole steps, then you're looking at a major third. So major third is one of the defining sounds of a major scale, having a major third. Okay, so that's number 2. Then 3, using the second tetrachord, you want to measure the distance within the key signature from 7 to 8. All right, so from 5 we get D up a whole step, E up a whole step, F sharp, G. So the distance from 7 to 8 is a half step. Da, da. So there's 5, 6, 7, 8, or back to 1 if you want to call it. So if the distance is a half step, this is the major 7. It is a half step away from 8, and it's called the leading tone because you can't end the piece here. Here's G major. I can't leave you there, right? You have to. I feel much better. It is really drawing your ear to resolve up that half step. Okay. Does everybody understand what I've done in terms of this analysis? Are there any questions so far? Do you want me to review it, or are you all good with it? So we look at the final note of the piece. That tells you most often what the tonal center is. So this, this tonal center that we're talking about right now is G. So you look to see if the ending is approached by 2-1, 7-1, or 5-1. Those are the most common ways it's approached. Sometimes it breaks those rules, folks. It's art, it ain't math. But if you see it doing this, then you say, oh, okay, all right, that is the tonal center. And then measuring from the tonal center, measure from 1 to 3. All right, so if the piece is using G, up a whole step, A, up a whole step, B, if it's using B naturals, that gives you a clue that, oh, maybe this is G major because it's a major third. A major third tells your ear it's some sort of major scale. And then to nail down the fact that this is actually a major scale, you have to measure from 7 to 8 to see if that leading tone, F sharp, draws your ears to G. So I measure D, that's 5, 6 whole step, 7 is whole step, now the half step. Ah, yes, so you have, sorry, B, do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do. So those are the identifying traits of a major scale, the combination of the major third and the leading tone 1/2 step away from 8. It's a good indication that the piece is a major. And again, if it does not have these characteristics, then it's in some kind of other mode, or it's in a pentatonic scale. And we're not dealing with pentatonic scales in this class. I'm dealing with it in the next class. But if you're only having 5 notes, you just say, oh, okay, that's some kind of pentatonic scale. Any questions? Oh, good. Okay, so let's look at this piece that I've given you here. It has no chords, so we're going to analyze it according to this this process here. So the first thing we're going to do is, well, let me play it for you first, okay? If you all can sight read, you can play along with me. If not, just have a listen. Here we go. And I'll do it slowly. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Okay, sweet little piece, some kind of French folk tune. Something about Phyllis, feeling tender towards Phyllis, right? All right, so the first thing we want to do is we want to look at the last note. And the last note is what? E flat. And then we look at the approach. This particular approach is 2-1, right? So you get 2-1. That's pretty good. That tells us that we're probably E flat is our keynote. Those of you who know the key signatures know that, okay, well, if you got an E flat here and then 3 flats here, it's a pretty good bet that you're in E flat. If you don't know your key signatures, use this process. It'll tell you. All right, so the second thing we want to do is we want to analyze the first tetrachord. So we're going to take a look at some place in here that has that tetrachord available to us. So I've just done an analysis over these notes, ignoring repeated notes or the notes that don't fit in the tetrachord. So using E flat as our key note, all right, let's see what we've got. So we got E flat, up a whole step is F, up a whole step is G, up a half step. I made a mistake here. This should read half. Look at that. Well, I'm not going to correct it now, but I will before I send that out. that note here should be half. I'm not sure I can write on that. Maybe. Dunk. I can. How do we get the color? Black. Dunk. So that's a half. Ugh. Well, that's not going to do it. You get the idea. So anyways, that's a half. So whole, half. E flat to F is a whole, F to G, G to A flat. So that's what we get here. Aha. So this is looking like, that this to here, 2 whole steps gives us a major third. Is that true? E, F, G. How about that? E, F, G, E flat, F, G. Yeah, that's a major third. If it were a minor third, it would be E, F, G flat, but that's not what we have. Okay, so that's the second part of the analysis. The third part of the analysis is using the upper tetrachord, and you all know what the upper tetrachord is, so I'm just going to look from 7 to 8 and see if 7 to 8 is a half step. So 7 in this with this keynote of E flat, a half step back from E flat is a D. Yeah, that's a half step. Okay, so this we can our analysis, even if we didn't know our key signature here, through using tetrachords and the identifying of the keynote, tells us that, yeah, this is probably an E flat major. Okay, and just to reiterate what we did, we first of all, we found the last note and try to ascertain if that last note or what it was, and if it were the keynote. In this case, it also starts on an E flat. So, okay, good bet, huh? The second thing we did was we ran the tetrachord up from 1 to 3, whole, to see if that major third was used in the piece. And by golly, it is. E, F, G, E. Yep, good. And then we looked at the second tetrachord to see if 7 to 8 was giving us a leading tone. Oh, yeah. So we get the major scale of E flat. E. So this is how you do it. So let's all try another. Let's try one. Okay. Crawdad song. You all want to unmute and do this with me? Okay, so what's the first thing we're going to do here? Well, you all know the song? You want to play it, or do you know it already? Let me get my... yeah, I'll play it here. 1, 2, 3, 4. You get a line and I get a pole, babe. For 1, 2, 3, 4. You get a line and I get a pole, and we'll go down to the crawdad hole. Honey, honey, baby mine. Okay, so what's the first thing we do if we don't know, the key signature and
Last note,
we find the keynote,
the A.
the last note. The
A.
last note is A. And then just to check it out, we just kind of like check the approach, right?
Oh, yeah. G sharp A. Half step.
Yeah, so Yeah, that's the third part of our analysis, but it follows one of those rules that I gave you of approaching it 2-1. This one is a 7-1 and not a 5-1, but this is a 7-1. All right. So then let's take a look at what's the next thing that we do in our analysis.
Oh, you got to look at the thirds.
Yeah, we
thirds.
look at the thirds in the first tetrachord to ascertain whether, you know, the third step of the is a major third, and we can do that right at the beginning here because, right,
The major third.
you get a B, and a C. So let's just see what's happening here.
C sharp.
A, and then B is how far away?
Full step.
Whole step, and then C sharp is how far away? Whole step. So you get that whole step portion of our tetrachord. So yeah, look at that. There's a major third. And then the third part of the analysis, you know, you also noticed, Al, because why? Because it's a 7-1.
Yeah.
So it's the second tetrachord right here where you have 7-1 or 7-8 interchangeable, which is a half step away. So we could comfortably say, oh yeah, okay, wow, this is an A major. I mean, there are ways to do it from the key signatures, but key signatures are confusing once you start looking at other modes. You have all the minor scale. You got 7, 8, 9. You have 9 different ways of looking at a key signature, which we'll figure out when we look at the modes. Any questions so far? Yes, Chuck.
Just on the last two notes.
Yes.
So if the last note's an A,
Yep.
what's the note before it?
That's a G sharp. It's in the key signature.
Okay. Okay. I knew that line was G. I don't know where else.
Right. So we'd have to review these key signatures for you up here. But over here, you do all the analysis within the key signature that's given over here. So over here, this tells you all the Fs are sharp, all the Cs are sharp, and all the Gs are sharp.
Okay. Got it.
Okay. So the analysis that we're all doing has to be, you're running what's called a diatonic scale that's defined by the key signature over here. Diatonic means every note. If there's a sharp or a flat or a natural, it means the scale has been altered, and then it probably is not a major scale, because alterations within this scale are a clue that somebody has done something to it and it's been changed into something else. It's like a red flag. If you don't see any sharps, flats, or natural inside the body of the song, it's in some pure key or mode. Okay. So those are the things you're looking at when you're looking at melody. I'm recording this, so if you have any questions, you know, after looking at it, just email me and I'll get back to you. Let's go on. Identifying a piece as major using chords. All right, so when the piece has the chords, as this piece does, I ripped this off from the Fiddle Tune fake book, not Facebook, fake book. So similar process, although a little simpler. Look at the last chord of the piece. Last chord of this piece is G. Both the endings are G. Assuming this chord is 1, see if the preceding chord is 5 or 5/7. So what's this chord here?
D.
Oh, that's the 5 chord.
5 chord.
D. That's right. It's the 5 chord of G, right? G, E, I'm sorry, G, A, B, C, D, 5 chord. Yeah. So what you're getting here is a 5-1 chord progression at the end. And as I said up in the beginning, when we were looking at chords, this is the major defining chord progression in Western music. And this relationship defines a key. It defines a major key, 5 to 1. This has other chords in it. It has C, which is what?
That's the 4.
4. Has E minor, which is what?
That's the 6 minor. It's a 6.
That's why God gave you fingers, just to
6 minor.
count up your scales, right? So what happens internally, I mean, that's interesting, but it's beyond the scope of what we're talking about here. The quick way to identify this, if you have the chords, is there a 5-1 relationship at the end? Last chord, G. Next to the last chord, D. D is 5. Okay. So let's go down here. If the chord preceding one is a 4 chord, then see if the chord preceding 4 is 5. If so, this may be a blues-based progression. Now, blues-based progression, as we talked about in our last class, often denies an immediate resolution from 5 to 1. It goes through 4 first. Okay. So let's take a look at this. We'll look at the last chord, Greenfield Blues. It's E. We're going to ignore this. This turnaround is optional for right now, but it holds another clue for you. So it's 1. A is 4. B7 is 5-7. Oh yeah, okay. So this does that bluesy thing where it goes 5-7, 4, 1. Okay. Again, it's confusing because it doesn't go right to 1, but you do have the first chord is E. I'm sorry, the last chord is E, but look what you have here. You have the first chord is E. First and last are E. You do have a 5-7. There are no other 7s in this to confuse you. All right, but it goes 5-4-1. So any kind of blues-based tune, you'll need to look for this option as a potential chord progression. Let's just listen to this blues and see what it sounds like. It's just a very typical blues. I'll play it for you. 1, 2, 3, 4. Woke up this morning. I had those Greenfield blues. It stays in E. Hey, woke up this morning. That's 4. I had those Greenfield blues. 5-7, went over to the corner. 4, I grabbed my guitar and my shoes. Okay, so sometimes they put a little 5-7 here as what's called a turnaround. And that's another clue. If it has a 5-7 turnaround to go back to E, oh, that's a 5 chord going back to E. Okay, so that's another clue that you have that, oh, this is in E major. Any questions? Let's go analyze some pieces. We have Daly's Reel. Again, I ripped this off from the Bill Tune Fake book. So let's do the chord analysis. So what's the last chord?
B flat.
Yeah, first ending, second ending, so you get a B flat. And what's the chord before it?
That's a 5.
Right? Does everybody agree that that's a 5? Count up on your fingers. It's B flat. Right? Everybody agree? It's B flat.
Yep. 5 chord.
I mean, F is a 5. Yeah, so that's a 5. So you get B flat, you get F, to B flat. All right, and then the other thing about this piece is that it ends in B flat, but it also starts in B flat. So you're getting this 1 5 1 5 1 in the first section, then it goes to E flat. What could that be in the
That's
key?
a 4. That's a 4.
That's a 4 chord, yeah. So it goes 4 1 5 1 5 1 piece over, because the ending is the same chords anyways, first and second ending. So we could comfortably say this is in B flat, and then our little key signature, if you know it, tells you that too. The little hint, it's in the flat side, it's the next to the last flat. Did you all know that? That's a quick way of telling in major what it is. It's the next to the last flat. In the sharp side, it's the where's A? Well, it's a half step above the last sharp that you see. F sharp to G. That's the little quickie way of figuring it out. All right, so here we have another piece for analysis. It's a tune called CC Rider. So what's the last? A. What's the next to last?
That looks like a 4. A 4 7.
D.
Everybody agree?
Yeah, D 4 7.
4 7. Yeah. And so let's just ignore the fact that it says 7 on it for a second, because we've all been talking about this as being some kind of dominant chord. But then what happens here?
E7 is
That's the 5 7.
It's the 5 7 of A. So this is going 5 7 4 7 1. Now in blues, sometimes we use seventh chords just for color. It's not functional harmony 7 if it's on the 4 chord. It's more, it gives you the blue note, and we're not talking about blue notes in here. I mean, you can see it. This is some kind of blues or something because it has all these naturals here. But the key, basically the key is A with some blues inflections. So we get, let's play it. 2 3 4 C Rider, see what you have done. That's just for color. 4 chord C Rider, see what you have done. A, that's 1. Now we're going up to 5. Well, you made me love you 4. Now your friend has come. 2 3 4 1 2 3 4. Wow, this is really a bare bone blues. The last one went to 4 here, but it doesn't. It just stays in 1 the whole first line. And then the last one also had a turnaround, and there's no turnaround here. So this is just as simple as you can get for a 12-bar blues. All right. Does everybody understand how I've done that analysis with the chords? And this is the process. Anybody have any questions about that before we move on? So this is pretty basic. This is all in major or some kind of major with a blues inflection. Next week, we're going to start looking at 3 different types of minor chords, but the same kind of analysis is going to take place. And then just at the end, I wanted to give you an overview of the modes. I know we looked at this last time, and we're going to look at each one of these. It's like too much information here. I understand that, but I want to give you this chart again. Last time I gave it to you, I didn't have the chord qualities put in, but this time I put all of these in here for you for reference if you want to be printing this out while we talk about these. So we have your Ionian or major, so whole half, whole in the middle, whole half, and then the chords are major, minor, minor, major. major or the dominant seventh, minor, diminished, major. And then for each one of the different modes, what we do is we just start on the next degree of the scale and use that as the next set of notes. So the Dorian scale will start on A and end on A, and we just copy these chord qualities down. They don't change with the exception that when it's not a 5, as here it's a 4, we don't use that dominant seventh. We're just not going to use the dominant seventh there. So we'll get A minor, B minor, C, D major, E. So your 6th is your diminished 7th in your et cetera, et cetera. So anyways, handy reference chart. And this will all be revealed to you as we analyze each one of these modes. Just another thing that's going to happen in these further classes are, look at the bottom tetrachord. Anything that goes whole, whole, half is going to be a major type tetrachord. So when we look at, look, Mixolydian has whole, whole, half. All right. And then the minor scale goes whole, half, whole. And anything that has whole, half, whole is going to be related to the minor scale. So, oh, look, there's the Dorian. That's related. It's kind of minor scale, whole, half, whole. So we'll be looking at it that way. Then there are some other weirdo ones like the Phrygian that goes half, whole, whole, and Lydian, which goes whole, whole. But this Lydian is also related to major because it has the tetrachord on top. We'll get to these, but I just wanted to show you how handy it is to understand these tetrachords, because you can really understand the modes by doing an analysis of where those half and whole steps are with the tetrachords. All right. Anyways, that's your reference sheet for the rest of the class. And that's it for today. Any questions? So what I might do is just, go through, start looking at different tunes that you're playing in different places and see if you can identify which ones are in major using this process. If it's not in major, then you got to chalk it up to, oh, it's something else. It's a minor scale, or it's a mode.
I have one that I'm going to send you. It's written in one key signature, but because of the accidentals that the fellow threw in, it could have been put in a different key signature. And it's actually, I think, a Dorian.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll take a look at it.
It'd be interesting. So there was two ways of presenting the same thing.
Exactly. And then sometimes people will change modes in the middle of a piece, which makes it really confusing. Oh, is this major? Is it Mixolydian? What's going on here? So, that again, it's art, it ain't math, and these composers and fiddle tune players and songsters do what they do by ear. And it's up to us to try to figure out what it is they're doing and put a name to it. That's
music comes before the notation.
Yeah, that's my theory, is that we were all banging on the logs before we went and painted on the cave wall about it, So here we are. Great. All right. Well, thank you all, and we'll explore 3 different kinds of minor modes, minor scales next time, and then the week beyond that we'll start getting into Dorian and some of the other modes. So.
Okay, it's been great.
Good. Look for interesting pieces that you can play Stump the Class with.
Okay.
All right.
Thank
All
you.
right. Thank you all. See you next week.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.